So, do you like big dragons in small spaces? If so, I really think you're going to like the game that we're looking at tonight.
We were behind. Pull up a chair, my friend, because it's finally time for Games and Trains.
So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our drink together for tonight. So, tonight we're going to go pretty classic with a Manhattan. Now, there's a lot of folks who will tell you rye for a Manhattan, bourbon for a Manhattan, and honestly, either works depending on what you're going for on that particular time. Rye is going to look a little, or is going to be a little spicier, whereas your bourbon is going to be a little sweeter. And even then, it's going to be what kind of rye, what kind of bourbon you end up on. Let's give it a shot. Yeah, that's it. That's it stuff. That's very good. Okay, so like I kind of spoiled up front, we have tonight Dragons of Etchinstone. It's a game by Chip Theory Games and designed by Joe Klipfel. Now, it might seem a little odd that I've got this really small spaced game from Chip Theory because they're known for games like Too Many Bones and one of my favorite games of 2025, The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era. But here we've got a really neat small form factor solo game that plays in about 30 minutes and is just really neat for if you're just playing at your table on your lunch break. You need something like really small that's easy to set up and tear down, or if like you're a commuter or on a flight, it'll fit on a tray table so easily. So let's look real quick at our components right here that I have spread out here on my board. Up here we have our dragon cards. These are going to be like kind of our end of the road final boss dragons, and these are double-sided as well, which is pretty neat because we have these different dragons available to us. And each of them are going to have slightly different attributes and scaling difficulty. So the recommendation is that Rodving be the first dragon that you take on. So that's who we're going to do tonight. And I'm just going to set this other double-sided dragon card over here. Now next we have our region cards. These are going to be the places in which we are adventuring, and we're going to go through these in sequence. So on my first card, I've got region 1 and 2, and then on my second, region 3 and 4. And these are going to get progressively more difficult as we go through. And finally, we have our mage cards, and I'm just kind of fanning those out again for you right here. These come in 4 different colors, which are going to be what are called our different ether elements. This game uses fire, water, electricity, and shadow as its available elements, and they are going to impact how some of my cards work as I'm trying to cast my spells to overcome my challenges. So setup for this game is pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle up my mage cards, and I'm not going to look at them just so I don't give myself too much information, and we will finish our setup and go into gameplay. So since it's springtime and pitchers and catchers are reporting, I was going to start breaking out my Guardians hats again, but my alma mater, Miami University, is currently undefeated and ranked 21st in basketball. So yeah, love and honor. We are going to represent that today. So you'll notice here I've put the bottom region card, the one I'm not using, underneath. And then region 1 is face up and on top of my deck of mage cards. Just put them right there. That is going to help me to keep everything organized and ready to go. And I'll just move these down a little bit so it's easier to see. There we are. And so that's all the setups. You can see here I have my card that's going to remind me of the phases of play. I've got my enemy abilities and journey perils right here that's going to tell me what to do as we go through the different phases of the game. And then I'm just going to go straight into gameplay. But the journey of a thousand steps often begins with a single drink, so we got to go there first. All right, so to play this game, it's going to work in 5 distinct phases. The first is going to be the challenge phase, and that is when I am going to determine what the challenge is that I'm facing. So we can see here on our region card, we've got these 4 enemies that we could face, and on the bottom of the card, we have what are called 4 journeys. And the enemies we're fighting, we're trying to overcome them so that we can keep going on our journey. And these journeys at the bottom represent either hazards or challenges that we're fighting along the way. Now we're going to approach these a little bit differently, but they're going to use the same steps to resolve, and we're going to show you how to do that. So when I'm determining my challenge phase, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my hand of cards for the round. And I'm just going to kind of look aside as I take my cards from the top of the mage deck. Again, so I just don't want to give myself too much information. I want it to be a surprise. And then I'm going to put the deck back on top of Rodving. So the first thing we're going to do real quick is we're going to look at our cards here just to kind of get a little idea about what they do. So just if we pull up fleet-footed up to the top here, so let's look at the elements of this card. So the very top left-hand corner is going to be on level 2. This is where all of your spells begin the game, and as you progress through the game, they will level up. Sometimes they may level down, depending on what's going on throughout the game. Below it is going to be either a skull or a signpost and a number. So the top card of the deck that I currently have covered with my region is the indicator card, and that's going to tell me what challenge I'm going to face in my next challenge phase. So when I do that, you'll kind of see how that comes into play. Below that, on the little pennant, is the initiative value. This is used in combat to determine who is going first, either me or the monster. Keep moving on down, and there are our actions. Now, the gray piece of that block is the standard action, and the colored portion is the enhanced action. That is going to fire off if I have elements that match the type of that action. So when we build our action set later, we'll see how that works. Directly below that is the boost value. That is a value that I can use to boost either my initiative or my action value when I'm building out my action set. Below that is our shields. So if we take damage during a combat encounter, we will have to soak that damage. And that number tells me how much damage that particular card can soak. And finally, at the very bottom, we have our upgrade value. And that's going to be how many experience points I need to be able to upgrade that particular card. So some of them are going to be a little bit more expensive, and those values are going to scale as I upgrade my cards and go through my journey in different regions. So now that we know what our cards do, let's continue on with our challenge phase. So I mentioned earlier that this top value with our signpost or our skull is our indicator. So I'm just going to slide the top region card down just a bit, and that's going to show us what our first challenge is going to be. And you want to be careful because these cards are very slippery, especially when they're brand new. So you want to make sure you don't have the whole deck coming down with you. It looks like here I've got a signpost with the number 4, which means my upcoming challenge is going to be a journey, and I'm going to face journey number 4. Now what I'll do to determine which number it is I'll just count from left to right, and we'll see here that we're going on the rightmost journey, which has a couple of values on it. The first, the mountain, that's the mana value that I need to be able to generate to overcome that journey. And then next to that, in the hourglass, is the penalty if I cannot overcome it completely. Next, I'm going to move into my action phase. And this is where I'm going to use my hand of cards to try to build an action set that will help me overcome this challenge. Now, the action set itself is comprised primarily of 3 cards. The first card that I'm going to have in my order is going to be my element card. That is going to tell me what element the attack or the action I'm going to take is using. Also the initiative value if I need an initiative for a combat step. The next card is going to have the action itself. That's where I'm going to look at that action value that's being generated by it. And the third card is going to be our boost card. And that's the card that's going to allow me to add a boost value to my action to be able to increase that number and hopefully overcome the challenge. So if I look here at my hand, I'm going to look to build the 3-card hand that can help me overcome this challenge. So looking back at our journey, we can see that this journey has a shadow ether element attached to it. That means that if I use a card that uses the shadow ether element, I can get a bonus. To do that, I have to select a card that has a shadow ether element in the upper left-hand corner to be able to activate the action. So if I take my fleet-footed card, which we can see has that shadow ether element, and I put my determined march card second to indicate that it is the action I'm taking, it will use the enhanced value, since the enhanced value on the determined march card matches the element in my indicator card. So in this case, I would be starting out with a value of 7 movement, which is pretty good. That's almost where we need to be. So the third card in my action set is going to be my boost. So if I look at brute force, it has a boost value of 3, and I will add that to my enhanced action value of 7, giving me 10. Now in this case, that is enough for me to completely overcome the challenge and let me just not suffer any penalties. Now, I mentioned earlier that the challenges are coded to the ether elements. Now, for journeys specifically, if I used an enhanced action that matches the ether element of that journey, I would also get to use my final card, called the reserve card. I would get to use its boost value. Now, normally, I'm not going to do anything with my reserve card. Only in this specific instance of a matching journey and enhanced action do I get to use its stats. So in this case, I would add Sword of Light's boost value of 2 to my total value, getting me to 12, which I don't need in this case because I've already got the 10, but good example since we already have it on the board. So in this case, I have completely overcome this journey, which is getting 10 or above. If I were to pass this challenge with 5 or above, I would have what's called a narrow victory. I would still get the experience points, but I would also suffer the penalty of having to discard cards from my journey deck, which I don't want to do. So since I do have a victory, I will get 3 experience points, which you can see here on the bottom of my region card. So what I'll do is I will look at the cards in my hand, and I will determine which of those cards I want to level up. Now really, you want your overall card quality to be as good as you can possibly make it, especially for the later regions. So you want to upgrade as many cards as you can, and you want to use all of your experience that you can, because it does not carry over from phase to phase, round to round. So I have 3 cards here that are all 3 experience points. And I'm going to upgrade Sword of Light, which was my reserve card in this action set. And I'm doing that because I want to be able to keep it, because I'm going to discard the cards that were used in my actual action set and keep my reserve card. And just going to level it up, maybe hopefully make the next challenge a bit easier. So the cards that I used in my action set, I'm going to take those and I'm going to discard them by putting them at the very bottom of my deck, below the unused region cards, so I know when I'm going to hit the next region. And then I'm going to deal myself 3 more cards. And that's the round. That's how we're going to go through the game. So I'm definitely going to talk through my plays here, but we won't go through every round in as much detail. But when we run into things we haven't seen before, we'll definitely try to get that out so it's a good overview for y'all. So I'm going to go right back into the challenge phase now. And now that I've dealt out my new cards, I'm going to slide down the region card again, and I'm going to get a new indicator. So this time I've got a skull with a value of 2, which means it's going to be a combat encounter in which I'm going to face enemy number 2. In this case, for the Jade Mountains, it's going to be this monkey enemy. So now I go back into the action phase, and combat is going to work a little bit differently. So my action values are going to remain the same, but now in addition to just overcoming the number, I also need to worry about initiative and damage. So looking at the cards I have available, I have 3 attack cards available in Frostfire Wall, Fire and Water, and Sword of Light. I also have Adapt, which has both a journey value and an attack value. So I want to make sure I can build the best set that gets me past his hit point value of 11. So I guess let's back up just a moment. If we look at the monkey enemy here, we can see that he has a hit point value of 11, an initiative of 4, he does 2 damage, and can soak 1 fire damage. And that means if I use an attack, an enhanced attack that has the fire ether element, he will get to soak 1 of that damage. That's not going to be an issue for us here because we do not have any fire element attack, but if we did, we'd have to decide whether or not that's worth it. To completely defeat the monkey enemy, I will need to deal 11 points of damage to him. To get that narrow victory like in the journey, I would have to deal 6 or half of his life rounded up. Now, if I fail to beat his initiative, I will have to take fast damage, which is equal to his normal damage value, in addition to the damage he's going to deal me if I do not completely overcome his challenge. So I'm going to try not to do that, but luckily I have some good initiative numbers here in my hand. So if we move this around just a little bit, it looks like my attack numbers are not that great, and unfortunately I don't have, my best attack value here is Sword of Light, my level 3 card, but to get to that enhanced value, I would need a lightning element, which I do not have. Now, since I have 2 fire cards, I can fuse those cards to create a lightning element, but it costs me my reserve card, and it's not going to get me where I need to go anyway, so I might not want to do that. So if I look at my next best, all the rest of my cards here are going to be a value of 5. So I think the best thing for me to do here is I don't see a way in hand for me to be able to completely overcome the monkey and still meet his initiative value. So I think I need to shoot for a narrow victory, which is going to cause me to take damage, but at least I'm going to get the experience points. So if I do it like this, where I use Sword of Light as my value, as my action card, and Frostfire Wall as my element card, that gives me that initiative value of 5 on the element card, which lets me overcome the monkey's value of 4 and move faster than him. However, I'm going to have to use the non-enhanced value on his card of 4 because I don't have the lightning element available to me. But I will use the boost value of adapt here of 3, which gives me an overall attack of 7, which gets me over that half threshold to a narrow victory. So because I only achieved a narrow victory, when I look at my penalty, which is going to be the next phase for me, I'm going to have to assign damage. Now, when we looked at the monkey before, we saw he has a damage value of 2, and what I have to do here is I have to look at my cards and determine which of them I want to to eat that damage and then downgrade. So looking at like Adapt and Frostfire Wall, both of those have shield values of 2. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Frostfire Wall to take that 2 damage, which meets its shield value. Now, if there were more damage coming in, I would have to keep assigning that damage to cards until I could soak it all. If I can't soak all the damage, I'm going to lose the game. So I need to make sure that I'm pretty good about how I'm assigning it. So since this card is taking damage, it is going to downgrade to level 1. So I'm going to downgrade that to a level 1 Frostfire Wall. And now when I move into my upgrade phase, I cannot use my XP on a card that I use to soak damage. So I'm just going to put that aside so that I don't make that mistake. Now, I did get 7 experience from the monkey enemy because I did get a narrow victory despite taking those penalties. So now I'm going to look at upgrading cards. And if I look at what I've got down here, and I'm making sure to keep my reserve card separate too, just so I don't accidentally mix that in. I've got 2 3s and a 4. So I am going to choose Frostfire Wall as one of my upgrades since it's 3 experience points. And then to make sure I'm using everything, I'm actually going to upgrade Sword of Light all the way to level 4 because that'll let me spend all 7 of my experience points. And Adapt is just going to have to wait for another day. So now that that's finished, I'm going to take the rest of my the cards that were not in reserve for me, and again, I'm going to move them back to the bottom, and I'm going to go for my next round. Oh, actually, first I've got to draw my cards. So I need 3 more. There we are. Better mix this time around, so hopefully I'll be able to activate an enhanced action if I need to. And we are going on another journey. This time we have a fire journey because we are looking at journey number 3 based on our indicator. And I actually do have an enhanced action for that, which is pretty good. Okay, so if I arrange this way, it looks like I need a fire card to be able to turn on the fire journey. And then, okay. So the issue here is that if I try to do the fire journey, it's not going to get me there because 11 is a big number at this stage of the game. So I don't have a good way to, yeah, because if I fuse both of my fire cards to create the electricity element, I would need to use the upgraded fleet-footed action. That also does not get me where I need to go. So I think that the best thing for us to do is to shoot for that narrow victory here, and we're just going to take our XP and live to fight another day. So with an 11, so we're going to arrange this way. So we're going to, yeah. Actually, we're going to do it this way. There we are. Okay. Because I'm going to kind of look at my XP values and make sure I can do this as efficiently as possible. So if I arrange this way, so where I have Frost Firewall, Burning Bridges, and Rain of Blood, I have a Fire Ether element as my element card, which upgrades me to the 5 movement action. And then a boost value of 1 gets me to 6, which is what I need for a narrow victory. Now, unfortunately, that is going to put me in the penalty because I did not get a complete victory. For a journey challenge, that means that I'm going to have to look at that time value. So right here, it's a 2. And that is going to cause me to discard the top 2 cards of the deck. So that shortens my journey through Region 1, so I don't get quite as much out of it as I otherwise could. So I'm not taking combat damage and downgrading cards, but I'm losing the ability to journey further into that region. So now I have a experience value of 4, and I'm going to upgrade my reserve card again, getting fleet-footed to level 3. And I will discard the rest of my cards and give myself 3 fresh ones. This time I'm going to look just in case, because when I do see that next region card, I need to make sure I flip over my region, but we're not there quite yet. Okay. So now we have a new hand of cards, and we're going to go into another combat, this time with this, this looks like maybe a lion enemy or something similar, maybe. I don't know if you also get Kung Fu Panda vibes, like with Red Panda and Monkey and Crane and whatnot, but I do a little bit from this. I'm sure it's legally distinct though, so shh. All right, so we're fighting number 4. That's that enemy, which is, it's typically that those are some of the more complex or powerful ones. So we've got to really see what we can do here. Unfortunately, I only have 1 card that has an attack action. And I don't have a way to turn it on because it's fire and I don't have any fire cards. If I look at turning on that fire element by fusing 2 of my electric cards, unfortunately, I can't get there with my available fire and boost value. And yep, nothing else is going to get us there, I think. All right. So I think we're going to have to build our stack. And I think we've already done that. So unfortunately, I have to fuse here because for any configuration to get to that halfway point, I need to have that fire element to turn on my enhanced action. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, when you fuse a card, you're going to put whichever card you like onto the bottom here. Essentially, like I said, you just then don't have a reserve card. And you're going to use the values from the top card as your initiative or as your indicator if you like. Actually, I'm sorry, not as your indicator because it becomes essentially a wild card. So I've fused these two electric ether elements to be able to make my fire element, which gives me the enhanced destruction action, and with the +2 from river swiftness, that gets me to a 10, which is a narrow victory. I also can't forget to check that initiative value, which for me is 6, and for the this enemy is going to be a 2. So a narrow victory, but I do have to then soak 3 damage, which is a lot. And I think it's going to mean I have to downgrade my fleet-footed back to level 2 because all of my the rest of my cards can take is a 2. And I want to do this because I don't want to downgrade multiple cards because I want to make sure my overall card quality is as high as I can make it. So unfortunately, I'm going to flip fleet-footed back over to be a 2. And then I have 8 XP, and all of them are 4. So I am going to upgrade my destruction to level 3 to have a better attack card. And then I'm going to upgrade this river swiftness, which is in reserve, to level 3. So I'm getting a little bit of journey, a little bit of attack power. And then since I had to fuse, I do not get a reserve card. I have to bin everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I think we might be out of journey, but let's see. Yeah, so when I get to the point where I see my unused region card, I can't draw 4 cards and have 1 left to be my indicator, that's when I'm going to move to the next region. So how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to take, in this case, my Jade Mountains card is going to flip over to the Living Marshes. I'm going to put the Burning Basin back on the bottom, and I'm going to shuffle up my remaining cards. Now, it's important that when you shuffle your cards, you make sure that they stay in the same configuration that they were when they were discarded. So your upgraded or your downgraded cards are going to stay the same. And again, I'm just going to look away a bit, not stack the deck or anything like that. Okay, but make sure I don't throw things everywhere. So I'll put those back on top of my region, my unused region, and put my active region on the top. Now we're going to start seeing in Region 2 some hazards. That's both on my journeys and on my enemies. So when those come out, we'll kind of go through what they do. And some of them are, not great. They're hazards after all. But it's kind of one more thing for me to have to navigate through. So just like before, I'm going to give myself 4 cards, which we've got a nice mix there. And then we will we'll look at our top. There we are. All right. Oops, and I accidentally, there we go. All right, yes, you see what I said? These cards are very slippery. They're very nice, high quality cards, and like the foiling on them is they're very attractive looking, but they do slip, so you gotta be careful. All right, so we're gonna start out Region 2, the Living Marshes, with a journey. And it's gonna be a water journey. So it's a 13, and that's quite a big number. And we got to see what we can do to try and make that happen. Unfortunately, our biggest journey, we only have 1 journey card here in River Swiftness, and we do not have the ability to get the water ether element that we need to turn that on. So already we're in a situation where we're going to take penalty. We just have to see if we can build our stack in such a way that we can get to that halfway point, and I think we can. So, and this is where, in these situations, a lot of times when I know that I'm just kind of trying to get to that value, I'm going to think about what I put in reserve, because if I can get to a point where I update my reserve card, it helps me with the next challenge. And I try to keep track of like upgrading my attacks and my journeys in pretty equal measure, just to make sure that, again, overall card quality is usually pretty good. So I'm going to keep Rain of Blood in reserve, and we'll see how that goes for us. This one over here, the electric Rain of Blood. So then I'm going to put my Shadow Rain of Blood as my element card, River Swiftness as my action card, and Frost Firewall as my boost. So I do not. So it's a Shadow Ether element, which does not match my my action cards. Unfortunately, I get the non-enhanced value of 5. I add my boost value of 4, which gets me to a 9, which gets over the narrow victory threshold of 7 here. So at the very least, we're going to be able to spend some XP, but we will lose a couple cards. So we do have 7 experience, which this was the hardest journey in this set. So it gives me the biggest benefit. Now I have 3, 3, 5, and 4. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade Frostfire Wall as a 4. I'm going to send that up to level 4. And we're going to upgrade Rain of Blood to a 3 to spend all 7 of my XP. And then we'll get rid of my action set cards and go to the next spot. All right. Oops. No cheating. 2, 3. All right, we got some combat here. So of course we're going to draw a journey card. That's going to happen. All right. Let's see. Ooh. Yep, we did. We sure did. Okay, so we're going on journey number 2 again. I mean, how we missed you. Okay, so that's trouble. So we only have, and actually, I'm gonna double check. Did I forget to take my penalty? I did. I did forget to take my penalty there, so I'm just going to. I'm going to keep the top card, so I'm not. I'm still doing the journey I need to do, but then since our time penalty was 2, I'm going to take 2 cards and put them on the bottom, so we lose access to those. All right, which is going to keep us on journey 2. So apologies, when I just fired off to me that I did not do that penalty phase, so there we are. Okay, now looking back down here, so the only movement card I have out in front of me is Motivated Flight, and that is an electric ether element, and it gives me 4 base and 8 enhanced. So I can't make the, if I fuse, I get an 8, and then the best boost I can provide is, yeah, I can do that. So Rain of Blood is a lightning ether element, so I can get to that 8, and I can get 4 as my boost. But since the journey is a water journey and not a lightning journey, I can't use the boost on my reserve card, so that'll only put me at a 12, which is frustrating, but sometimes that's how this works. And what I have to do is I have to then try and build the action set that benefits me most in the long term. So I think the way to do that is I'm going to keep Rain of Blood as my reserve card so that I can upgrade that. Yeah, and then so when I do Frostfire Wall, that does not impact my action, but my unenhanced value of 4 plus my boost value of 4 gives me an 8, which gives me another narrow victory. So for our 7 points, I can... This is kind of a tough one because I could do the Frostfire Wall and Motivated. I can only do 2 cards. I can't make a way to have 3 happen. I really want to upgrade Frostfire Wall, level up Frostfire Wall, because it's currently sitting at level 1, but I would have loved to be able to get all 3 of those. So I'm going to do Frostfire Wall. No, actually, I'm going to take my own advice. I'm going to spend the most XP I can. I'm going to upgrade, level up Motivated Flight to level 3, 4-3, and then upgrade Rain of Blood to 4. And then Rain of Blood stays. as my reserve, and then the other 3 go into the bin. Now, so yeah, I upgraded. Now I've got to do my, I need to do my penalties. So I'm going to put these 2 on the bottom. Man, region 2 is going to be very, very short, it seems. But that happens. So I'll give myself 3 cards and check to see if I have something left. I do. Okay. So this is going to be a battle. And this looks like a... Oop. There we go. Oh, another journey. Got caught by the card again. All right, another journey. This time it's going to be a lightning journey. Okay, so this time we do have some tech. So if I arrange like this, so I have Rain of Blood as my element card. I've got Fleet-Footed for my action, and I've got Adapt for my boost. Since this is a lightning journey, and I am using an enhanced lightning action, that means that I can use the boost value of my reserve card. But I think I've got it anyway. So enhanced value of 9. Boost of 3 gets me to 12, so I'm already there. But I also get the +3 in my reserve card, which means that's going to be a complete victory. So great, awesome. We don't have to lose any more time, which is good. Maybe we get one more journey here. So I don't have a penalty phase because I was able to overcome that journey. But we are going to get to upgrade. I only have 5 this time, which means no matter how I look at it, it's going to be 1 card. I'm tempted to do Determined March because it stays as my reserve, but I'm going to do Fleet-Footed because it's a 4 and it gets this card up to a 3, and I think that's just a better overall play. I've also been struggling with the journeys a little bit. I mean, I've had more journeys than combat, so that makes sense, but I want to keep those up. So to the bottom, and let's see if we have enough to keep going. All right, 1, 2, and unfortunately we see the bottom cards, so we've got to go back. So now that I've completed region 2, I'm going to switch these cards. So my unused region becomes this one that I've been using. And I'm going to move on to the Burning Basin of Region 3. So I should see more hazards and monster abilities here. I did manage to avoid... The one good thing about the last phase was that I did fade a bunch of those, so I didn't have to do anything in that space. But let's see if that carries us through in the long run. Okay. So now I put my new region on the top. I'll give myself 4 cards. And let's see what we're doing. Every time I pick it up and shuffle, Rodving is like staring at me. He's like, he kind of looks like Smaug with a black halo, and I don't know that I love that. I don't know if the friends I made along the way are going to carry me through this, but let's see. All right. So now we have a battle, and it's battle number 4, which looks like maybe like a warthog-headed kind of guy. He's not great. So he has an ability. He has the ability Ranged. I must suffer early damage. Discard my reserve to ignore. Okay. So I did face this when I previously played this game when I was doing my prep for this video. And what I determined was if I don't beat his initiative and I discard a card, that stops me from having to take early damage. But if I don't beat his initiative, I'll still take early damage. So I have to be cognizant of that, but I do have a couple of cards here that may let me overcome his initiative. So he has 9 health, 7 initiative. He does 2 lightning damage, and he has a lightning shield of 2, which that's a problem because my best attack card is a lightning card. And my level 2 brute force is not going to get me there. So I think I have to do that. And I think I can get there, honestly. So if I use this lightning card, River Swiftness, as my element card, I can... it has the right... So it has an 8 initiative, which means I can beat his initiative. That's good. And then that gives me this enhanced lightning attack, which since I'm using a lightning attack... I have to do essentially 11 damage instead of 9 because of his shield, but my boost will get me there. So if I do it this way, it's 5 experience points. I'm trying to. I think I want to do it this way with Motivated Flight as my reserve card because I think I want to try and upgrade Brute Force to upgrade my overall card quality. Okay. So, looking at this now, so Element card is Lightning, which also gives me an Initiative 8, which beats his 7. My enhanced attack value of 10, plus my boost value of 3 will give me a complete victory. Now I am going to discard my Motivated Flight card, and I'm just putting that to the side for now. I will fully discard it later, so I don't accidentally upgrade it. So that's a bummer, but at least it means I don't have to take any damage. Complete victory. That's pretty great for us. So even though River Swiftness is a 5, I'm going to upgrade Brute Force here because some of those 2s have really been getting to us lately. And again, I think the overall card quality is better here, so I'm going to do that. So now because I had to discard my reserve card, I'm going to have to bin all of those, which again, all shortens the journey. Not making as many friends. And 4. So we have 4 new cards. Here we go. And let's see. Again, pretty good. Looks like we got a good mix here. All right, 2 attack and 2 journeys. That's good. And we are going to face a journey. Yeah, so this has definitely been way more like Lord of the Rings than, something like some of the other fantasy stuff where it's more fighty. So we're doing a lot of walking and punctuating it with some battles instead of like battle. So yeah, that's how I'm going to do it. Since Smaug is at the end, so maybe like The Hobbit a little bit more. It works. So anyway, journey number 2, that is a lightning journey. And it does not have any hazards associated with it. So, unfortunately, none of my movement actions are lightning actions. That means I'm not going to be able to use my reserve card, and I just have to rely on the things that I have. And it doesn't look good. I think I have to use Determined March. Yeah. So if I do this, River Swiftness, Determined March, and then Rain of Blood as my boost card, that only gets me to an enhanced value of 10. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get the complete victory, but I will get the narrow. So it'll cost me. This is going to cost me a lot of time. So I'll go ahead and do that now so I don't forget to do the penalty phase. It's a penalty of 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then I will upgrade. So the lightning journey was 6. So that means no matter how I stack it, it's going to be 1 card. And I think it's going to be River Swiftness, the Shadow River Swiftness, because these journeys have just been murdering us. Yeah, so we got to make sure that when we're doing the final journey, we've got enough to go on. All right, so we already did our penalty, and let's go into our next cards. All right, so we've got some stuff here. Let's see what we're fighting or journeying. Another journey. Okay. Oops. Hold up. All right, let's fix that. There we go. Journey number 3, that is a fire journey. Okay, so we only have 1 journey card, and that's our adapt. And unfortunately, it does not have a... it's not a lightning... it's not a fire card. So, and actually, this also has a hazard. I missed that to begin with. So this hazard is night travel. I subtract my initiative from my boost. Oh boy. So we really have to be careful here. Oh boy, that's worth a drink, I think. Oh goodness, that's tough. So I've got to be even more careful because I need to make sure that my reserve card boost does not offset my boost card boost. Okay. So I think this, let me look at this configuration real quick. So if I look at this, so I'm using my Shadow Ether, which gives me the enhanced attack or journey action. That gets me to 5. And my boost gets me to 10. Now, unfortunately, oh wait, you know what? I apologize again. I did miss one more thing. So this, there was a hazard here on the indicator card, and there's also a hardship or a peril on this card. So in addition, this is treacherous, which if I fail to attain a complete victory, I will suffer 1 damage. Oh boy. Okay, so there are big penalties here that I need to account for. So the best I can do is a net 8, which is going to leave me short, which is bad, and I'll have to take damage. So one of the things I hadn't considered yet, what I hadn't considered doing was I hadn't considered potentially diverting an action, which I can do to divert this particular challenge. Now, the downside of doing that is it's going to cost me time because I'm going to have to discard both from my hand and the top of the deck. So this is an instance where it's worth, I think, diverting because the penalties are going to be very steep because I'm going to have to take damage and suffer time penalties. So it's only worth 5 XP, which is only going to net me 1 card. So I think I'm going to divert here. So to do that, I'm going to take a card from my hand. I'm going to choose Rain of Blood. And then I'm going to discard this top card of the deck. Now I do not get to draw back up here. I only have 3 cards in my hand. So the risk I'm going to run here is that I have a little less versatility to face my next challenge. But hopefully that's going to not bite me in the you know what. So let's see. Let's see what we do. All right, so it's a fight. Our new challenge is a fight. We have lots of fight, and that's good. So it's fight number 1, which is this like 6-legged lizard looking creature, which is, that's terrifying, but we'll move past it. All right, so this is where the overall card quality is going to bite us a little bit because we don't have the flexibility to look at different boosts and initiative values. We've got to go with what we have. Now, what I may have to do is I may have to use my best card, my level 4 card, as my initiative card, because that's going to stop me from taking the fast damage from the lizard. And then I can use a destruction and I can use adapt. So that gets me to an enhanced 10 and a boost of 3 to get me to 13, and that clears the threshold for a narrow victory, but it's going to cost me damage, and it's going to cost me 3 damage. Oh boy. The only card that can completely eat that is my Frost Firewall. So that's what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to downgrade Frost Firewall to level 3. But I do get 9 experience points, which is going to let me upgrade both Adapt and Destruction. So it's not the worst trade-off. Like, had we gone on that journey, we would have lost 3 cards and taken a damage. So we would have been in, I think, in a worse spot had we done that with our hand. So now we're going to go to our next spot. Oh, and that was the end because I drew out my unused region. So that was very short, our trip through the Burning Basin. We're going to go into the Forest of Gath, which is going to be our last region. And I'm going to shuffle up again. I don't know how I'm feeling, honestly, going into the final region. It feels like we've definitely had some setbacks. We haven't had a ton of time in some of these regions to really upgrade our card quality, which hurts us when we're trying to get to the last battle with Rodving. We'll just have to see how that goes. All right, so I will take my 4 cards. So this area is just like rotten with long journeys, powerful monsters, and hazards. So we got to be careful. All right, so our first challenge is going to be battle number 4. And battle number 4 is this kind of like bloated, almost looks like if any of you play 40K, it almost looks like kind of like a Nurgling or Nurgle kind of dude. So not what we want to see. So yeah, 17 hit points, 7 initiative. He does 5 damage. So we want to try to avoid that. And has shields for water and shadow. Oh boy. So our best attack is actually a shadow attack. Let's see how that looks. I think we're going to end up taking damage here, folks. Ouch. Okay. So if I arrange my cards this way, that gives me an initiative of 8, which beats his, a combat or movement value, of course I choose combat, of 7, and a boost gets me to 8, which does not get me there. So I think I have to go here. So that gets me to an enhanced 9, which does beat his value, still beating his initiative. So I have to find a place to dispose of 5 damage now. Oh boy. Okay. So looking at my cards, the only card that can completely eat 5 damage is River Swiftness. And since I do not want to downgrade multiple cards, I'm going to go ahead and do that. But now I have 9 experience points, and if I look at my other 3 cards, that gets me to exactly a 9. So I'm going to upgrade all of these. So Frost Firewall to level 2, Adapt to level 4, and Fleet-footed to level 3. Okay, not bad. And then River Swiftness I had to bin. Frost Firewall I keep as my reserve card. All right, not the best, not the worst. Could have been much, much worse. So let's see what else we got. Oops. All right, now we're not slippery. Okay. There we are. Okay. So now we're going to do combat number 2. And this looks like some kind of a weird alchemist in the Forest of Gath. So let's see. So 9. This one is also ranged. We saw ranged in the last region. We do have to maybe discard our reserve card to avoid some early damage. Only 9 hit points, but 10 initiative, which is really rough. And honestly, I don't know that we can beat it. None of our cards get us there to where I could boost my initiative to be 10 or more. So I think we're going to have to eat some fast damage no matter what. 3 damage, 1 fire shield. So luckily, I think we can get a complete victory here, or a total victory here. So our best attack card is Frost Firewall, which we have the enhance for. And then Burning Bridges will give us the boost that I think we need. So yeah. Even though I can use my boost card to boost my attack or my initiative, that initiative of 10 is gigantic. And the best I have is a 6. And the best boost from there is a 3. So unfortunately, we just can't get there. So we're just going to end up eating the early damage. And so ranged isn't going to do anything to us because we're going to have to eat it anyway. So yeah, we've got 7 plus 2 is 9, which is a complete victory. But we do have to take an early 3 damage. And I think we're going to downgrade Determined March, which is a super bummer because it's our reserve card. 5 5 XP, huh? Very rough. Yeah, I think it's just going to have to be Determined March. Because we want to get Burning Bridges or Frostfire Wall upgraded. And I think I want it to be Burning Bridges. Yeah, I think Burning Bridges is where we want to be as our upgrade. So yeah. All right, we'll do that, and we'll go on to our next spot. Oop. So 1, 2, 3. We continue. All right, we're not at the end yet. So there we are. So we're going to fight monster number 4 again. So we're going to fight the Nurgling again. And unfortunately, it looks like we can't beat his initiative, so we need to see how we can take the least amount of damage, I think. Our best attack card is our destruction card. But we would have to... Yeah, our best attack card is our destruction card. We would have to fuse to be able to activate it. But then we can... Oh, but that won't get us to both places. No, it will not. Because we either have to... We're going to take either fast... So I think we're going to take fast damage regardless. Which is... It sucks. And it's going to eat 2 cards. Oh, that is a huge bummer. So... We're going to take damage regardless. I don't see a way to avoid that. Because if we use our boost to get us to... Like, if we looked at our boost this way, how I have it, with Fleet-Footed, Destruction, and Rain of Blood, I would have to use my boost to boost my initiative. And then I can't get a complete victory. I still have to downgrade a card. But if I finagle, I can't do that either. But if I do it like this, where I use these, if I do it this way, I'm going to take the damage, but at least I get a complete victory and I don't take the damage twice. But yeah, that damage coming in is going to hurt. So, I mean, we just have to take it. That's the way it is. Okay. So we're fusing Rain of Blood and Determined March to make a Flame Ether Element, which gets us 13. Then we will use our boost card to give us +4 to get us to 17. Now we still have to take that damage. That's 5. So I think that means Rain of Blood needs to come down to level 1. And I'm just really concerned about the number of level 1 cards we have in hand. That could really bite us later. And then I still need to pick something. So I think I'm going to take Destruction down to level 3. And that's going to eat all of our damage. Now I get 9 XP, but only 1 card to upgrade. So it's going to be Fleet-Footed. That's just what we have to do. Yeah, that was a bummer of a round, but we did what we had to do there. So I did not have a reserve card because I had to fuse. So we're going to take our next 4. All right, so this is a pretty good hand, I think. We've got a couple of good cards, and we'll see where it takes us. So it's going to be a journey, and it's going to be a water journey. And we have a good movement action, but unfortunately it doesn't match. But I don't think that matters because actually we can do it. So if we stack like this, we stack Adapt as our Ether card, Motivated Flight as our action card, which gives us that 10. And then our boost card of here gets us to 14. But as I'm looking again, we have a hazard. It's treacherous. If we fail to attain a complete victory, suffer a damage. I think we have it. I think we actually have it. So again, let's count that up again. So lightning enhances us to 10. plus 4 is 14. So yeah, that is a complete victory. So that hazard or that journey peril does not get us. And that's awesome. We really needed that. I don't think we may have one more in us. So we get 7. So I think we do motivated flight because I want to keep some. I want to get a couple more upgraded journey cards, and then we do adapt to level 3. Yeah, so no penalty. There's my upgrade, and then we do get to keep Rain of Blood in hand as our reserve card. So that's going to be good for us, hopefully. 1, 2, but we reach the end of the Forest of Gath. Okay, so we've done our journey. We've made the jaunt from our home base all the way to. In this case, we'll call it the Lonely Mountain because again, I just think this looks like Black Halo Smaug a little bit. So let's look at Rodving real quick while I shuffle up. So pull him up real quick, and he's got 2 different sets of values. So the first thing I have to do is I have to get to him. So like we could imagine this is like I'm journeying up the mountain to get to him, and then I have to fight him. So I'm going to build a couple different sets of action sets. So I'm shuffling up my cards, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deal myself 7 cards. Okay. Now I am going to use these cards to build myself 2 action sets. And using those action sets, I am going to try to overcome the journey here on his left-hand side. So this has 3 mana values of 20, 23, and 28. Now they each have time penalties associated with them. And that's whatever value threshold I clear, that's going to be the time penalty I take. So I'm angling to get to that 28 so that I can have the least time penalty going forward. So I'm going to look at building my action sets. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for my cards that give me, and I'm already noticing I have a lot of attack cards in this set, which is not great for me. Okay, quick battery break there. So like I mentioned, I have to build 2 action sets, and then I add those values together to be able to beat those time thresholds. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking for my biggest value here for movement. And like I said, I drew a lot of good attack cards here, so hopefully that does not sink us. And adapt and fleet-footed are my 2 biggest values. And now I want to make sure I can turn both of those on to their advanced. So if I build like this, just a little bit so everyone can see. Yes, if I build like this, that's going to turn both of those on. And I need to look for my biggest boosts now, which looks like a, yeah. So we'll put that here, and then I have 1 reserve card. So, okay. So this is going to follow the normal rules of a journey. So since I'm not using, so these are all fire journeys. So actually, with that in mind, if I change this up just a little bit, I still think I want to do it that way. So it's only netting me. Well, let's count this up. I think this is the best way to do it because even if I do a fire journey, I think it kind of becomes a 6 one-way, half dozen the other situation. So, but again, let's check. So I've enhanced here at a 14. Plus 4 gives me 18. And then here I have an enhanced 9 plus 2 is 11, which gets me to 25. And I don't think there's a way for me to go up from there. If I change that up, so if I move this so that I can utilize the fire journey to get a reserve card bonus, I can only take that once, so I could use it for 1 or either action set. That gets me to 7, 8, 9, 10, which is 24. So it's a net downgrade. So that puts me at, as I said, 25 with my original configuration. And I compare that to Rodving. That gets me not quite to 28, but I do get to 23. So I take a time penalty of 2. That means I have to discard 2 cards from the top of my remaining deck. Now, I have reached the dragon. Now we must fight him. So I get to use my remaining cards here. So whatever I have left, and that's why you want to avoid as many of those time penalties as you can. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to build 2 action sets, and that is going to determine whether or not I can defeat this dragon. Now, looking at his values up here at his very top, you can see he has initiative value of 9. I just have to beat that in one of my action sets. He does 9 damage to me, so if I beat his thresholds, I have to be able to absorb 9 damage. And he's got a fire shield of 4, so if I'm doing fire damage, that means he's going to have an additional 4 hit points for that attack. Unfortunately, one of my best remaining attack cards is a fire card. I want to try and avoid using that if I possibly can. So I drew all my I draw all my best attack cards in the first part, and I drew a bunch of good movement cards here, and that's just how it works sometimes. Got to learn to work with what the tools were given, so that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to pull out a couple of my better boost cards here, just because I want to try and keep those in reserve a little bit as much as I can, so they give me the biggest overall values. So if I take all of that into account, I still think I need to use one of my big, yeah. I can still fuse here, but it reduces my overall quality. Now these are, again, fire journeys. We can see that from this over here on the side. And these are the heart values I'm trying to overcome. And this is the amount of damage that I'll have to eat at each of those values. This, of course, on the top being the fast damage if I can't beat initiative. So, yeah, this one is tough, and I don't know that there's a way to get there, honestly. The initiative value is, like I said, that's going to be a really tough one, and I may have to configure myself in such a way that I have to, I may have to configure myself in such a way that my attack, that he's going to get that bonus armor, just to try and give myself the best overall numbers here. So if I use this configuration, it does let me get, so using motivated flight does let me get the attack value that I need here. And then brute force is my best, brute force and destruction are my best remaining attack cards. I would love to be able to use Frostfire Wall and not eat the shield, but that means I could not use my initiative value of 9 here. And I really want to be using my boosts for his damage instead of initiative to try and give myself the biggest number I possibly can. So this looks like my best 2 action sets, just from like my quick observation, not making you guys sit here look at me for 20 minutes while I do every possible iteration. So this gets me above his initiative. These are my best 2 enhanced cards, and these are my best 2 remaining boost values. So if I look at these, I've got a value here of 10, which goes up to 14 with my boost. And then here I've got a enhanced 9, which goes up to 13 with this boost. Now, 4 of that is going to go away because this is a fire attack. So, oops, what did I say? 13 plus 10 is going to be 23. So I meet the lowest threshold. I just scrape by. Now I have to see if I can eat 27 points of damage, and I don't know if I can. Now the nice thing is I do have, Destruction has a fire shield. That means that it's going to absorb twice as much damage of the matching ether element. So that's going to be 4. Then 9, 12, 16, 18, 20, 25. So I'm 2 damage short once I look at all of my damage that's available. So unfortunately, I got to all the way to Rodvang, and I just missed out on being able to defeat him. So yeah, he continues to reign atop the mountain. So really, like if I look back at my deck and what got burned, like these are some cards I would have. There's some cards here I would have liked to have access to, especially like my upper level Rain of Blood. But I think the Region 3 and Region 4 really hurt us because we weren't able to get some of the upgrades we would have liked to get to make both those journeys easier. But that's Dragons of Etchinstone. So another one of these games that is incredibly easy to learn. It has some idiosyncrasies for us to take into account, but overall, just pretty easy to grok. It took me a full playthrough my first time to really get it. But once you do, it's got a lot of crunchy, like, how do I optimize my long-term build? So there's like, how do I play to win instead of play not to lose? There's a lot of that here. Just like putting yourself in the best long-term position. And I think that's really, really cool. So in addition to Rodving, I've got extra dragons, and then I've got these expansion packs as well. So I didn't open one of them just so I could show you what they look like. But it's just this pack of cards that all fits in my little Dragons of Etchinstone box. So like I think of Elder Scrolls, and then I think of this tiny little box, and I'm like, yeah, good on you, Chip Theory. Like really branching out and doing some cool stuff. But yeah, there's a lot here, and honestly, it took me longer because I was talking out all my moves and everything, so you guys can see what's going on. But the box says 30 minutes, which is probably maybe a little short, maybe like 40-ish once you really kind of know what you're doing and can fly through some of those phases that I was really talking through. But yeah, if you're looking for something to do on your lunch, you have a flight, you have a commute where you're on like a plane or a train, this is a great, awesome use of that time for a really good crunchy game. These expansion packs, so there's the Siege expansion and the North Vale expansion. These are giving you more mage cards, more dragon cards. They add additional mechanics so that you can do a little mixing and matching depending on which pack you're doing, and really vary up the way the game's going to play. For example, the Siege expansion takes out journeys entirely and really focuses on combat, but uses a siege element that is incorporated with a bigger mage deck that has some additional enhanced siege functionality in it. And also the super nice thing about this game is I picked this up for about $15 from my local game store, and then these expansion packs were 12 a piece. So for that relatively small amount of money, you've got a game that I think has a good amount of play to it. It's got some crunchy base game stuff, some great expansion ideas that are coming on, and I believe I read that Chip Theory is looking to expand this game even further. So you've got even more things coming up, and yeah, I think it's definitely one of those easy to learn, difficult to master kind of games. And really, it's just sometimes luck's going to get you right. Like that's always the downside of this style of game. It's just like in Magic. Sometimes you draw the wrong half of your deck at the wrong time. And I did a little bit of that, but it's managing your resources to make sure that you're giving yourself the best overall shot at a long-term winning strategy, which always speaks to me. So I would highly recommend this if you're a solo gamer, especially somebody who really values the small form factor, small footprint, incredibly easy setup and teardown, and the portability. So even like with both expansion packs, this little box fits all the cards, all the rule books, and all. If it'll fit in your backpack, fit in your briefcase, fit in your pocket. Honestly, like, or if you've got like some of those '90s style jeans, you could fit like a bunch of these in your pocket. So I highly recommend this game as for solo gamers. Yeah, it's definitely something to go out and pick up. It's in retail now. It's been there for a while, and I believe reprints are coming. And even, I don't know if they're going to do a Kickstarter for the new content, but I do believe new content is coming as well. So, yeah, if you enjoyed this solo playthrough, like we've been getting a lot of great feedback on the solo series. So thank you very much for your support. Do like and subscribe this video if you'd like to continue to see solo gameplay coming out for even more games. I've got a lot of games that I have picked up or borrowed, newer games and older favorites to show you guys, and just really excited to share this solo journey with y'all. So can't wait for the next one. And until then, I'll see you then. Have a great night.